Hello, welcome back to my channel. I filmed a video a few days ago. Actually, it has probably been 2 weeks now because I was only 8 hours post-op my wisdom teeth removal. So I had filmed a video, and honestly it was really difficult to get through because I still had a lot of swelling in my face and I didn't like the final product. Also, no, it's not clean, and I'm very sorry. There's nothing disgusting back there. It's literally, what's that? Shoes, clothes, my toddler's toys, literally like a shoe. I don't know what that is. A shoe. It's a shoe. I have clothes I need to put away, blankets that need to go in storage. That's my lotion and perfume, and that's just my unmade bed. So it's nothing disgusting. I probably shouldn't post this on the internet. Like, in all honesty, it's not like I'm ever gonna blow up, and even if I do, I don't think I'm ever gonna be the content creator that cleans first, and that's okay. Nothing's filthy. It's just like clothes and shoes and stuff like that. I have been wanting to make this video since 2016, but I just never did. The video that I'm making today is a like a refilm about the Mandela Effect, and I really enjoy this topic. If you've never heard about this, then you're probably living under a rock, or you are not somebody who's super into conspiracy theories or science fiction or anything like that. But those are all things that I really enjoy. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to stuff like that. I love space. Before I go to bed every night, I literally put my AirPods in. I usually turn on YouTube and I'll watch like a space documentary. Like, I love stuff like that. The Mandela Effect just happens to be one of those things that has lingered in the back of my mind every day since the day I have heard about it. I created a Reddit account in 2016, and like, I didn't even know what Reddit was. I don't even remember why I started a Reddit. It's beyond me, the origin of this story, but somehow I stumbled across the Mandela Effect, which I don't think I actually saw it on Reddit. I think that I probably saw it on YouTube, maybe by Tana Mojo. More than likely Shane Dawson. And before, you know, anyways, probably one of those two channels when it was around and it was really blowing up in 2016. To get into it, my origin story doesn't matter. I feel like it's really important that everyone knows about the Mandela Effect, and it's not because of anything like super crazy. It's not something I think is going to detrimentally change your life, no. But, you know, I have nothing else that I think about at least once a day for the past 6 years. So I think that that in itself, you know, means that it's something everyone else should know about. The Mandela Effect is primarily, it's where a large group of unrelated people remember these very specific things in pop culture happening differently than they actually ever were. You're either somebody who thinks that this is just everybody misremembering, or you're somebody who really does resonate with, if not all of them, very strongly, at least probably one or two. And it's just not something a lot of us can shake. People who are really deep in the community of this, they really don't chalk it up to misremembering. There's a big two-sided argument when it comes to this. It's a term coined by Fiona Broome. That's her name. She has a website, and I don't think that it's really active anymore, but it still has a lot of good archived posts from 2011. So prior to 2011, nobody has really heard of the coined term Mandela Effect. The OG Mandela Effect is the Nelson Mandela Effect. That's why it's called the Mandela Effect. So I'm just going to talk about that one first because I feel like it's most relevant, and it's not something that resonated with me. Nelson Mandela was the president of South Africa. So he died in 2013, as we know it today and how it's always been. But many people have very strong memories of watching like a funeral service taking place on the news of his passing in the 80s. Like a whole broadcasted, like it was either like a memorial service / funeral that was happening, and they were paying their respects, and his wife was speaking on his behalf. I'm not really entirely sure, but that's how the story goes. So it was coined from that specific thing. So it was Nelson. A lot of people have memories of him dying in prison in the 80s, but in this reality, which you're going to hear a lot when people are talking about the Mandela Effect, they're going to we're going to talk about universe A, universe B, this reality, that reality, because the whole premise is basically parallel universe theory and the many worlds theory. So a lot of people believe that we somehow, either we as a whole or our consciousness has shifted to a nearby parallel universe where major things have not changed, but a lot of very small things have changed to where they're slightly different because we're in a parallel universe. But that's the most popular theory, although that there's many other theories that people feel cause this. But if you're someone who believes in the Mandela Effect, the most popular one is the many worlds theory. If you're somebody who thinks it is just you misremembering, then you just think you're misremembering. It's not one of those things you can really argue, because it's really just a theory and no one can prove it wrong, because it's all memory based. I just think it's interesting because, you know, it seems so strange to me that so many people would have such vivid memories of something that never happened. I'm going to kind of explain some of the more trivial ones, the ones that people just say, well, your brain could have just filled in the blank on that, or you probably just weren't paying as close of attention. But there are some, and you know, ironically enough, the most popular one, how it was coined in the first place, the one with Nelson Mandela, I kind of feel like that in particular is just like not one of those things your brain filled the blank in on. I just kind of think that, how are you going to misinterpret somebody's passing 30 years prior to them actually passing? I don't think that that's something your brain could have made up. But, you know, again, this can't be proven and it can't be disproven, and that's one of my most favorite things about it. The next most popular Mandela Effect is probably the most popular, but to be honest, you can't start off talking about it without talking about Nelson Mandela. But now we're going to talk about the Berenstain Bears. So the Berenstain Bears was a children's book. Everyone knows what the Berenstain Bears is. If you don't, you are definitely living under a rock. It's about a family of bears, and it's written by Jan and Stan, or I think the man's name is first, Stan and Jan Berenstain. A vast majority of the population on the planet who knows about the Mandela Effect remembers these books being called the Berenstain Bears. Let me try to spell it from memory. So basically like Einstein or Frankenstein with the I-E-N or E-I-N. I'm kind of blanking out, but either way, that's not the way it is. There's no E. Today, and apparently how it's always been, is the Berenstain Bears. So stain, like a stain on your shirt, with an A. This one really bothered me, like really badly, because me in particular, like really, I really truly was an avid reader throughout my childhood, and now very avid reader. And it was not, I am sure that this was not the Berenstain Bears in my childhood. It was the Berenstain Bears. And actually the interesting thing for me is that I remember the authors' names being Berenstain. I do remember the authors' names being Berenstain. It was Stan and Jan Berenstain. But the actual like fictional family of the bears was the Berenstain with an E. So there was a difference there. They weren't identical, they weren't the same. I also remember asking how to pronounce it, and that's something if you go and look through like archived posts or anywhere on Reddit or anywhere on YouTube, you'll hear and look at the comments on YouTube, you'll see people talking about that very same thing, where they were asking their parents growing up, hey, how do I pronounce this? Is it Stein or is it Steen? Nobody would have any reason to be asking that question if it was always Stain, because it had an A and not an E, so you wouldn't need to question how to pronounce it, if that made sense. But nonetheless, apparently it's always been the Berenstain Bears with an A, and that's the more fascinating one. But again, this is where the beginning of the iceberg of Mandela effects begins, and as you just kind of make your way down as the years go on, you kind of start to notice that the ones that are major are not really major to the rest of the world. Like the people that you ask about this who aren't super interested in it, they kind of see these things as super trivial. But to people who have these vivid memories, it's not trivial at all. And like, it's just, it's strange the relationship that people who are in this community have with people who they try to introduce to the phenomenon, because it's blatantly overlooked. It's like, I don't know. And some people who I've asked about this, I get the feeling that like they're scared, in a way, like they're just kind of afraid to talk about it. Like they don't want to think about it, which is odd, because, you know, most people they like to look at true crime content. They, you know, can digest other conspiracy theories. They can talk about them. They can laugh and joke or be super interested and have their own opinion on it. But I've noticed that a lot of people I talk to about the Mandela effect genuinely become a bit, their skepticism, but then there's like an overlay of just like, they don't want to talk about it. Like they're kind of fearful. Like, and if somebody does remember it the way that it never was, they don't spend a lot of time talking about it. They just kind of automatically assume they were wrong. And I think that that's interesting. I wanted to make this video for 6 years and I just haven't, because it was new to me then and I didn't feel like I knew enough about it. I wanted to give myself time to see if this was a fad. Because a lot of conspiracy theories, not that they're fads, but like, I don't spend every day, at least once a day, thinking about every other conspiracy theory. But this one, as somebody who's really into that type of stuff, I find it odd that this is the one that sticks with me. 2016 is when I first heard about it, but it honestly became widespread when Fiona Broome coined the term in 2011. But it didn't gain popularity in the media and on the internet until 2015, 2016, I would say. That's when it really picked up. From 2016 to 2019, there was a large influx of Mandela effects. And it seemed like every day there was something new. Some of my favorite channels on YouTube, actually my only favorite channel on YouTube, because nobody else really talks about this anymore. I've only watched one channel who has been thoroughly dedicated to this since I first heard about it, and that is Moneybags73. I'll put his little icon up here in the corner in editing, and also his logo. So his logo and the name of his channel, so that you cannot mistake it for anything else. But he has been thoroughly dedicated to the Mandela effects, and I really appreciate that. I admire that a lot. One of my favorite channels, the only one that I really watch and keep up with and revisit frequently. There was a large influx between 2016 and 2018. I'm going to talk about some of them now, because my whole premise with this video is to maybe introduce some people to it who haven't been introduced to it before. The next Mandela effect, these are in no particular order. The next one for me was the fruit of the loom. If you have not heard of the fruit of the loom Mandela effect, I am about to probably blow your mind, but if you've heard of it, I'm sure it's still interesting. The fruit of the loom is I'll put it in the corner here, I'm pointing, hopefully I can insert it. The fruit of the loom is a clothing brand. So my dad wore it a lot, my mom wore it a lot when I was younger. I was born in '96, so a lot of our clothes were hand-me-down, and I saw this logo all the time. So I was really interested to know what the Mandela effect was with the fruit of the loom. This is the fruit of the loom, right here. Except that it's not. This is what we all remember. We all remember the fruit, and some people remember the leaves. I also remember the leaves, but fruit, leaves, with or without, but the main thing is this cornucopia that you see here in the back, the basket looking thing. Has never been on their logo, ever. Never been a part of their logo. But this is what we all remember. We all remember the cornucopia. We have no, you know, all the comments about this Mandela effect in particular is how like the only reason that we all know what a cornucopia is because of the fruit of the loom. We have no other reason to know what it is. His favorite thing with naysayers with this particular Mandela effect is to say that our mind is filling in the cornucopia. But how, why, we don't even, like, we had no other reason to know what it was except for the logo. So why would our minds automatically, that doesn't make sense, but maybe a naysayer will make their, there's plenty, actually, as a matter of fact, plenty of naysayer videos on YouTube, so you will have no problem finding those. But yeah, so comment below. Do you remember which one looks more familiar to you? And if you're not sure, maybe try to focus on why the one with the cornucopia looks familiar to you. Because you would actually be the perfect test subject to explain if your brain's just trying to fill it in. Because why would your brain be trying to do that? Anyways, moving right along. I'm trying to remember these off the top of my head because I didn't write them down and I made this video impulsively, which is something I do a lot. So I don't have use of my phone because I'm using it to film. The next Mandela Effect is going to be pertaining to one that is particularly big for me, and that's going to be about Ed McMahon, this gentleman over here, and the company that he worked for, which was Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes. He was the guy who would show up on your front doorstep, deliver the big check. These commercials played throughout the 70s, I believe. Either way, they played through, like, a lot of people remember them through the 80s and 90s. I have seen them all the way through the early 2000s. So I've seen them all the way up until probably 2009 or 10 on Nickelodeon, because I remember it coming on commercial breaks a lot. And the thing is that while many of us associate Ed McMahon as the older gentleman who would come deliver the checks to your door, supposedly in this reality that we're in right now, he never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He never has ever delivered large checks to anyone's door. In fact, as history would have it here, he worked for the direct competitor of Publishers Clearinghouse, which is American Family Sweepstakes. You guys tell me in the comments, but I have never heard of American Family Publishers ever, or Sweepstakes or whatever it's called. I've never heard of it. I never heard of it until this Mandela Effect came out. I never ever heard of it. So how in the world could I be confusing it with Publishers Clearinghouse when I've never even heard of American Family Publishers? And I'll tell you what, the naysayers for this one to say that the commercials played back to back and Publishers Clearinghouse was the more popular one, so we are just our brains meshing them together. I mean, I'm not going to speak for everyone. You can definitely feel free to interact in the comments, but I know for a fact that this man worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. I don't know if it was in a different reality. I don't know if there's a time traveler who came here to do a mission and he just kind of maybe accidentally messed some things up and now it's like this. I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that this man worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He 100% did. As a matter of fact, my grandmother in the early 2000s, and even to this day, she's into all the as seen on TV stuff. She gets a lot of sweepstakes in the mail. His face is so vivid in my mind as being on these Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstake envelopes that she would have to participate in and send back in the mail to get her chance at winning the large check. So I am not making these memories up. That one's one of the biggest for me. Please tell me what you remember. Do you remember Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse, or do you remember it as it's apparently always been in this reality, which is that he worked for American Family Publishers? I know I'm not confusing it because I'd never heard of American Family Publishers before the Mandela Effect, and so I know for a fact that my memories are true. But everyone has their story, and that's mine, and I'm sticking to it. And if you use emojis, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. You're definitely gonna want to stick around for this one. So there's a lot of missing emojis. I don't know if you've heard of this one. This one's super popular. It's super popular, and in fact, I would almost be willing to bet this is actually the one that many people agree on. So there's a missing robber emoji, and I'm not talking like Apple kind of upgraded the software and got rid of this one. No, this one's never existed. Everyone remembers the robber emoji being like a portrait type emoji of the front-facing guy. He had a black eye mask on, and he was wearing a black and white striped long sleeve shirt, and he had a money bag over his shoulder. He was wearing a black toboggan, and some people remember the front facing profile, and some people remember like the running like in action with the money bag over his shoulder. Some people remember both like coexisting, so at the same time. Me, I remember the profile one. I'm like, literally, I have it in my mind vividly. That one's really huge for me. I can see why that would be trivial to someone who thinks the Mandela effect is just people misremembering. I get it, but like, I remember this so vividly, and so do hundreds of thousands, at this point probably millions of people remember this. You cannot explain that. I know like your brain doesn't take in every single little thing, and it'll just kind of like fill in the blanks here and there. And I also know that there is such a thing as suggestive content. So I know that like if you're on Reddit, if you're on YouTube and you're asking people, do you remember this? And you show it to them before you ask them what their memory of it is, I get that that is suggestive type of content. But that's why I don't try to lay my content out that way. But that still doesn't explain to me, like, why would my brain fill something in that never existed? How would I remember all the details? It makes no sense. You can't explain that. I believe some of the naysayers were, particularly with the robber emoji, were saying that it's a part of BitLife, or like on the Android phones or something like that, or that it's something that has been memed before, or just like you're just kind of seeing it on other platforms that are unrelated to Apple. No, I've used it before multiple times. No, that kind of upsets me, because it's surprisingly, as minuscule as it might seem, that one I have very, very, very vivid memories of. So it just angers me to talk about it. But nowhere in emoji history can you see that this ever even existed, and that they just kind of got rid of it or replaced it like they did with the once upon a time gun emoji that's now a water gun. It's not one of those situations. It's never existed in this reality. Another one that's missing that a lot of people remember is the swordfish emoji. The swordfish emoji, it was kind of like most people's rendition of it. I mean, try to get it in your mind first, pause if you need to, if this resonates with you. But what most people remember is, here's the fan art right here. He's kind of like turned, like he's in a position where he's jumped out of the water, he's in midair, and he's kind of like curved his back a little bit. He's got the really pointy nose out to the side. That's what a lot of people remember. That's what I remember. Never existed. Another one that no longer exists are the pink flip-flops with like the yellow dots on them that were kind of crossed. Or a dual memory for me is the green flip-flops that kind of crossed over. Anyways, there's not a flip-flop emoji anymore, and everyone remembers the emoji. Most people do anyways. There's other emojis that are no longer existing anymore, but I don't remember them all off the top of my head. But those are the ones that really, really struck me as something's right. No, this is not right. And as fascinating as the Mandela effect is, in 2016 and in 2018, when I started looking into this, like, you know, loving conspiracies and loving stuff and like this is interesting to a fault, because like the more you look into it, the more you go down that rabbit hole, like the more information you're craving to get, the more examples you're craving to see, wanting to see new content every day, like wanting to see something new happening to justify like your own memories. Like that will drive you insane. And that's what it did to a lot of people. That's what it did to me. It made me physically ill. I remember feeling very like scared for a while. But maybe I'll save that for another video if you guys are interested in this one at all, because at this point I really don't think there's anybody who doesn't know about the Mandela effect. I just don't think that's a thing. So moving right along, the next really big example is going to be the Mona Lisa. I'll post a picture right here. So as the story goes, when I was growing up and I took AP art class in high school, the story was that if you looked at her long enough, her facial expression would begin to change from a kind of somber, like expressionless mouth to a smile, like a slight smile. This right here, Exhibit B from Universe B, is what she is today and what she has supposedly always been. This very chipper, very clearly smiling Mona Lisa. If this is how you remember the Mona Lisa, let me know in the comments, but most people remember her as Universe A, where she had a very like expressionless look, and it was only after you looked at her from a certain angle or you looked at her for a bit of time that she would begin to have just a very slight smirk, and then it would go back to somber if you looked away and looked back. That's not how it is now. But let me know what you think about in the comments below for that one. I think I'm gonna leave it at that for today, guys. I can make another video if you guys are interested, but this was to kind of introduce people who have never been interested, and just because I've been wanting to make this type of video for years and I've never gotten the opportunity to do it, and it's a lot to get off your chest after 6 years, but I plan to come with much better content later, because this will never not fascinate me, although it being 2022 now, there's more to this theory today, and in fact I would love to interview Fiona Broome to get her opinion about the Mandela Effect today, because she kind of went ghost and nobody's heard from her since the site has been inactive, and I think that that's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna make another video maybe if you guys are interested to hear what I think about now that we are in 2022. New Mandela effects are very far and in between. It's nothing like it was in 2016 to 2018, but I'm ready to make a part 2 if you guys are interested. Please go follow Moneybag73. He's got a lot of great content if this type of thing interests you, and don't be afraid to talk about this. I mean, definitely don't spend hours looking into it, especially if this is your first time hearing about it, because it's not healthy, but it's truly interesting. And please stick around, because I'm going to have a lot of great content coming, and I promise to pick up my room. But anyways, guys, thank you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please engage, not because I need money or followers or anything, but I truly want to attract people who are interested in stuff like this. I don't have a name for it, but if you're interested in stuff like this, you want to see more videos like this, please engage below, and I hope that you all have a great day. Bye.